Okay, so what's going on here? Okay, Ozzy hurt himself in 2003. He had a life-threatening ATV accident, which is a three-wheel motorcycle, busted up his spine, his back. He had pins and rods and everything inserted. That same year, he developed Parkinson's disease. Okay, that wasn't affecting him nearly as much as the ATV accident. Okay, fast forward to about 2013. He went to use the restroom in his house, pitch black, didn't turn any lights on, walked back into his bedroom, somehow misjudged the bed, fell flat on his face, and knocked all of those pins and rods loose again and was taken back to the hospital. Afterwards, 3 or 4 very painful surgeries with very painful recovery times. I did a show 3 or 4 months ago. I think it was only like 3 months ago. We were talking about Ozzy's health. I talked about all of these things. Ozzy insists, I don't care if they have to will me out on a board. I'm going to play. I'm going to do a proper goodbye. I want to do a proper goodbye to my fans by doing a show for them. And so then his wife, Sharon, went to an interview and said, no, Ozzy's going to do 1 or 2 more shows. He's got to say goodbye to his fans. He doesn't feel like he got because of the injuries and not getting to tour and say goodbye and all this stuff, just having to cancel them and say no more. He wants to come back, and he wants so the big obstacle has been Bill Ward, the original drummer before Tommy Clufetus, my friend. And Bill Ward did not go on the Black Sabbath final, kind of end of the road tour, their final tour. He didn't go on that. And so anyway, what we're looking at now is Bill Ward just signed on. Bill Ward wants to do it. He doesn't want to talk about some health issues. He's getting up there in years now too. There are some health issues. He's not talking about them, but he wants to do that final show or shows. Now, my opinion is, if it's difficult for some of the guys to do this show, they may just do one and feel like they got to say a proper goodbye to their fans. That's a really big thing to Ozzy. He said under any painful circumstance, he's going to do that, unless he just can't even breathe. He's in so much pain. But it sounds like he must be getting better, or he wouldn't be agreeing to do this. So my feeling is, if the first one goes well, I don't see them stopping at 1. Sharon always said 2. Ozzy said a few, on the last show I did on him. And so we'll see what happens, but I'm kind of excited about it. What I want to show, first of all, is I have this reunion, this, 1997 Black Sabbath reunion. It says reunion down here at the bottom in Birmingham, England. This is live, and it's a 2 CD set. I had it in my truck for quite a while. I really enjoyed listening to this. So it's the Black Sabbath reunion 2 CD set. Okay. So they did that, and they were all there. Ozzy was there. Bill Ward was there. Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler, the bass player. They were all there for that reunion tour. So they want to do that one last time and make it a farewell to the fans, a proper goodbye, as Ozzy puts it. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm of a firm belief it's going to happen. It's not 100%. They haven't inked the deal yet, but they all want to do it, and that's a first. So what do you guys have to say about that?
Well, first of all, there's a couple of things.
Here you go.
What about okay, they're all nicey nice now, and I agree, Royce. If Ozzy lives to be 90, he'll be swearing to God he'll do one more show. It's in him, he can't help himself. But they're all talking about this. This got reported in Forbes magazine, and yet the last thing we heard about Black Sabbath was they couldn't get Bill Ward because he could not get a contract from them signed. And as I recall, it had to do with ownership of the name, because Ozzy and Tony owned the name. Gotcha. And Geezer sold his to I think Tony, I guess the same thing happened with Bill, but if he was going to come back, he wanted some sort of more fair restitution. He didn't like the fact, and this gets into, a lot of things that bother me about current tours and stuff is that, when a band becomes a corporation, when there's four of them, we're talking about all four of them getting back together. I think the corporation needs to go by the wayside. I think that they should just perform, set up a temporary Black Sabbath company just for this performance or set of performances, film it like Zeppelin did with Jason, so that because these will be most likely in the same club area that Black Sabbath formed when they changed their name from Earth to Black Sabbath, and they want it as close to their origin base as possible. So my first question, and maybe somebody in the peanut gallery knows the answer to it, is what about the points of contentions that have always been there up till now? Forbes didn't bring out any of this stuff in that article, and I'm wondering why. Is this a plant? Is this just a tickle in somebody's ear, or is this an actual possibility? I don't know.
Yeah, none of us really do. But the good news was Bill Ward wasn't coming in, but now he is in.
Oh, he swore hell and high water that he'd never work with Ozzy again. Also, that was one of the reasons. I mean, not only Music Sanctuary had it there. Sharon Osbourne kind of put the kibosh on it first time because she wouldn't give Ward equal pay, just like Music Sanctuary said there.
Right.
But
Right.
Also, there was contention between them personally, from what I've read. And
but I had last year, evidently that had been kind of kiboshed, right, Chris?
That's what I heard, but you never know.
Yeah, I had heard that there were apologies made from both camps and that they were at least on talking terms and good enough with each other. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is the old bone of contention to begin with, or is Bill willing to settle to be a hire-on just to say goodbye? It's that important to him. Could be that.
Well, it's really hard to say. I think I would make a settlement just to see just to do a proper goodbye. They all have plenty of money. It's not going to change anybody's life. Hello, Angela, James Watson, Hitspace 80, music.
Hey,
for
everybody.
Seasons. Yeah, great to see you all here.
Well,
James is here. Oberheim. I am Hop Frog. Dave is here. I'll just throw it out there, Dave. If you're interested, we have a place on the panel for you. I know you're a big Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath fan.
Oh, yeah. Come on up, bro.
You would do us proud up here, I'm sure. Okay, so it's hard to say, but when I saw that Bill says, I don't know what kind of negotiations were taking place behind the scenes, Michael, says it's exactly like you said. None of that was brought up, so we don't know. But they must have satisfied him for him to want to come up, because who doesn't want to do that final as the original band?
That's what it should be, though. It should be just a one-off and leave it, because I saw them on the end tour, and they were great, but at some point, I still think they were almost upstaged by Rival Sons when I saw them. And not to speak ill about them, I mean...
No, Dave just came up.
Hi, Dave.
Below me.
Hey.
I am Hop Frog. Now, I know you're a big Zeppelin and Sabbath fan, right?
Oh yeah. more Sabbath than Zeppelin. Sorry to say.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine.
I do really like Led Zeppelin, but Black Sabbath, like
Dave, I couldn't fault anybody for that. As you know, Zeppelin out of the Unholy Trio is my favorite. Pink Floyd. What am I thinking? Then Deep Purple, then Black Sabbath. But Dave, Black Sabbath is one of my very favorite bands of all time. So, if somebody says, no, Black Sabbath rules, You can't argue with that.
No, you can't.
They kind of do, don't they?
Oh yeah, and like I wrote in the chat, if there wasn't Black Sabbath, I would have quit playing guitar after a month. It just
There you go.
I mean, I had a friend that showed me all the licks to Sweet Leaf, Iron Maiden, all the different riffs and stuff. It's just like,
Oh,
yeah,
God, that's
like,
great.
You know, like I said,
So-
I love Ozzy.
I wish.
So you must learn to play guitar with everything tuned down a half step, bro. Right?
I still do. I still play
Yeah.
either an E flat or D.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Look
Jimmy.
at that.
He's
That's
good
way
too.
cool.
But where's it at?
That's
And
way
then
cool.
there's another Ozzy from like.
As a matter of fact, you know, that was part of Black Sabbath's sound, was the fact that Tony tuned down to give it a darker sound. Geezer was looking out outside of their their practice space, and there was a movie from the 50s playing in a theater across the street called Black Sabbath. They were called Earth up until that point, but it wasn't just changing the
exactly
name,
right.
because Geezer got this idea. We could do songs about, the things that scare people. It was intentional. They had it was like an epiphany from Geezer, and everybody was on board, you know.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of amazing when I had read that.
Yeah, I think of all the newer doom and metal and even punk bands that owe a great tribute to Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
For sound wise and just everything, just the whole aesthetic is just like
no. They're
you know,
I love that band. I saw them. I want to say 71, but it was probably 72 at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And we went to a lot of concerts out there and at other places, but it was just. I mean, the air. It was like the air was thick. That's how heavy the music was. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced before.
Oh yeah,
It was almost. I don't know what I was on, but it was almost too much. It was almost too much, folks. And then a few years later, I'm married. I moved to California, met my wife, got married in '73. So 1975, the California Jam. California Jam 1 was at the Ontario Speedway.
Here he goes. He's going to make us all jealous again.
And we had Black Sabbath. We had the Eagles. We had, oh my God, we had Deep Purple. Linda Lovelace got out of a helicopter and said she'd like to get to know us all a little better. I'm not sure everybody remembers Linda Lovelace, but if you're my age, she was in a movie called Deep Throat. Anyway,
I thought by that time America as a whole had gotten to know her a whole lot better.
Yeah, but there was an amazing lineup there. It was just incredible. So that was my second time seeing Black Sabbath. So I haven't seen them since. I haven't seen them since '75. I regret that. I never got to see Led Zeppelin. I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan.
Yeah, but you saw them in their prime, bro. You saw them in their prime.
I am going Friday night to see Robert Plant and Alison Krauss. Just 9 miles up the road at the Vina Robles Amphitheater. Same place 2 months ago I saw John Bonham's Evening with Led Zeppelin, which was absolutely fantastic. And probably it's been a little over 2 years now I saw Alice Cooper there. Great venue. No such thing as a bad seat. No such thing. I mean, it's small. It's just a little amphitheater at a winery. And I mean, you can be down and have good seats, and there'll be some open, and people are just up milling around with their friends, hanging out with wherever their friends are, because there's no bad seats.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that. So it'll have been in a couple of months. Jason Bonham. No, it's not his dad. It's not John Bonham, but Jason Bonham and Robert Plant, all within a couple of months. So I'm excited about that.
Cool. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So anyway, I really think this is going to happen. You know, I think if Ozzy wasn't feeling better, he wouldn't be committing to it. Yeah. I want to say hi to Angela. How you doing, Angela?
Hello,
also,
Angela.
I want to say, Paul, Psychos Platters. Are you still out there? Because I'm going to put a link up here, brother. I know you're a Black Sabbath fan.
Oh yeah.
And we are looking for Black Sabbath fans.
Yeah, the first Black Sabbath album I think I heard was went over to a friend's house and he's playing what I call the greatest hits, which is Paranoid. Has all their hit songs on it, and then after that, it caused me to do a little bit of a discovery and listen to the original one. I did not know that Ozzy played a harmonica.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, until I discovered the first one. Yeah,
my first exposure to Sabbath was somebody had the "We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll" compilation, and just listening through that was my first introduction, and then the original album, and then Paranoid.
Yeah. Nice. Mine was, I heard the first album. Friends of mine had it in Santa Rosa. I was naughty, sent to North Carolina, bought Paranoid, and by the time I got back to California, I was ready for Led Zeppelin too. and I totally became a fan of the one band that could give all three of these bands that we've talked about, the Unholy Trinity, right? Zeppelin, Purple, and Sabbath. How about freaking Uriah Heep?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were a little more fairies and ogres oriented.
That's okay.
But then again, so was kind of Led Zeppelin. So I think, I did one of my biggest videos ever. I just did a video on Uriah Heep. This was about 2 years ago. It got like 150,000 views on it. There's a lot of fans for that band. And of course, I collected Uriah Heep right along with Zeppelin, Sabbath, and Purple,
Same here. Back in the day, I had all that stuff. I'm just now, little by little, starting to buy a lot of that. I just bought 2 Grand Funk Railroad. Bought a couple more James Gang. I'm just now starting to try to get back to collecting some of that older stuff that I enjoyed so much in my youth. So Johnny, now are you a Led Zeppelin? I don't even know what my show's about. Are you a Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne fan?
Yes, I had an album.
Okay.
I can't remember which one it was. It had Sweet Leaf on it and all that many years ago when I was a teenager.
Number 4.
Master
Master
Reality.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I was wrong. It was Master Reality. Yeah.
Okay, that one. And and we went to a party, and I don't know, for some reason it disappeared, so I don't have it anymore. But I do like a lot of the songs. Yes.
Wow.
Coming from a doo-wop guy and everything.
For years, that album was my favorite. The way I looked at Black Sabbath is, for me, we were talking about this, so anybody on the panel, for me, Black Sabbath was the 4 of them. Me, Black Sabbath is Black Sabbath to Technical Ecstasy for the most part. That's their inner discography. That's my Black Sabbath. The other forms of Black Sabbath, I have much lesser interest in. But the way I look at their discography is you've got their first 2 albums where, and that second album kind of sparks into where they would go, by the way.
Yeah.
But much like 3 for Led Zeppelin did, that was important. And what they did is they were still barbed wire sounding with those first 2 albums. And then all of a sudden, this slick, and they had more time in the studio to record it, right? They had much better, was it Geezer or Tony that said, they were offered suitcases of money for drugs specifically. So they were getting into cocaine, and like any kind of drug, there's a honeymoon period, and it can create a creative spark. And I think when Reality came out, that's when we got their first, like, this is us as a professional band. And everything past that is like what I call the slicker albums, and I think they culminated with Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. But the other 2 albums, Sabotage and Technical Ecstasy, are not what critics are saying these days. Critics who are in their 20s, 30s, and even 40s who weren't there right? And now they listen back to these albums, and then you read their reviews, and you get reviews that say something like this. The album is still the four members showing, although not showing progress, any more progress as they've done in the past. They are showing that they are still solid, but you can see the cracks in the music happening. And they're writing their entire review on the Black Sabbath story, okay? Because the original critics, they gave those albums a much better review, and on top of that, they not only gave it a better review, but they weren't questioning where the band was because they didn't know, right? Something should remain fixed in time. Otherwise, what do we get? We get a rewriting of history every time, and I'm against that.
Well, Michael, picking up on what you were saying about the original band, for the longest time, it's only been recently that I've started to hedge on this a little bit. I always said that Ozzy Osbourne is the voice of Black Sabbath, the only person I care to hear singing Black Sabbath, and he will always be the voice of Black Sabbath. Now, recently I started paying a little bit more attention to Ronnie James Dio, who's technically and lyrically a great artist. And, Michael, it wasn't just Ronnie James Dio that did a few albums, left and then came back. But when he left, who was it? Ian Gilliam, Deep Purple, was taking a break from Deep Purple.
That album was the winner.
He came.
That's my least favorite album, Born Again.
Yeah, boy.
Hey, is it the album or is it the actual?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I brought that up.
Back, you evil demon. No, and that's interesting because I love Tony Iommi. And I'm open to other vocalists. Dio just didn't catch me. And you're right. He was a better singer. If you're going to talk about what is technically a better vocalist. But see, I've never claimed that Ozzy Osbourne was ever one of rock's best vocalists. He's not. But he is the greatest vocalist for Black Sabbath. His voice fits, people. It just fits.
They went to Iommi and Ozzy went to school together. In fact, all of them did. And Iommi absolutely couldn't stand Ozzy. He thought he was a total freak.
Didn't he bully him? I thought he beat him up or something in school.
He'd walk around dressed so strangely with things hanging from him and stuff like that. It was just such an oddball.
Well, he was such an oddball, but he was smart because later he'd put up this poster saying Ozzy Zig in search of gigs has his own PA. And we've talked about that in the past, Royce. Whoever owns the PA, has control of the band.
Has control, right.
Yeah.
You know what, Michael? You're right. Ozzy, the voices, it's unique, but it's unique. It's unique to the Black Sabbath. Plus, he has this persona, this evil kind of look when he, it's just something about him that really fits with the Black Sabbath.
Well, that's Johnny, you're bringing up a really good point, and I'll tell you that's why. And all due respect to Royce, who more faithfully followed Ozzy's career. I didn't follow Ozzy's career either any more than I followed the reinvention of Black Sabbath either. And the main reason is he was menacing with Black Sabbath. He had that persona. But when he became Ozzy and Ozfest and all of that, it was almost like he was a clown version of what we had known in our youth. And that kind of always bugged me a little bit,
Well,
just a little bit.
What I said a minute ago about Ronnie James Dio and Gilliam, they're both great singers, but Ozzy's still the voice of Black Sabbath for me.
Yeah, he always will be.
I have one album I ordered new when I was trying to catch up my Ozzy my Ozzy collection and Black Sabbath collections. I ordered it along with a couple of other albums, and it came in, and I could have sworn it was Ozzy, and I wound up with James Dio, and I never would have bought it had I known that. I just got it confused. In fact, I want to show. Go ahead.
Here's an example: the Rolling Stones. Take Mick Jagger out of the picture. It's not really the Stones without Mick Jagger too. Mick Jagger made the Stones, right?
It would almost be.
It would almost the same, right?
It would almost be unwatchable to me. Right.
You can replace Mick Jagger with another frontman, but it's not going to be
Adam Lambert. Yeah.
Well, Johnny is bringing up a very good point here. There are some bands that you have to have the members for, and to say that it's okay to have Ronnie James Dio take over for Black Sabbath in my head is a little sacrilegious, especially because of what careful how you say that, Michael, but especially after the catalog and what they were and what they represented to us before. I just always felt like I couldn't quite make that crossover because Ozzy was that important. It denigrates Black Sabbath to say that any one of the original four can be replaced, and that's not right. Black Sabbath is too important, right?
Too important.
Yeah.
Same, just like a Led Zeppelin. So, hey, you know what? We haven't heard yet? Paul, I know you've got a Black Sabbath story in you or two. We're gonna turn the mic over to you for a minute and let you talk a little Black Sabbath to our heads.
All right. Well, let's see here. As far as I'm going to be 57 next month. Okay, I was a little late to the game on Sabbath. Okay, I would say probably the first brand new album that I bought from them. My memory isn't so good. It's either Never Say Die or Heaven and Hell. Now, I agree with you, Michael, on your assessment on about Dio. But the thing is, I think that what made me a little more easier to take is because I loved Rainbow. And so it's like, I was already familiar with the vocals. Heaven and Hell is a hell of an album. I like that one better than Mob Rules, but still. So, but that's
I can see that, Paul. That makes, coming from that direction, I just gave it from my direction.
Sure.
Being a few years older than you, young man.
That makes sense. That makes sense coming from that. Yeah. Because we were brought up. I was brought up with the Ozzy Black Sabbath.
Well, yeah.
I'm 67, so I was brought up with that, right?
And
so
then
it makes sense, right?
Right. And I remember I used to always read Cream, Hit Parader, Kerrang. Our library was a cool library in high school.
Yeah.
And I remember a reading in Hit Parader, and it was like, what? Ian Gillan's going to join Sabbath? And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, I told my buddies, I'm like, look at this. And we're passing around. He goes, they're all like, I don't know, man. That's fucked up. I said, maybe. I don't know. I'm used to Deep Purple. Because I didn't know much about his solo career. Okay, I really didn't at that time frame. So when MTV put out Trashed, which I think still off of that album, that's my favorite damn song. Zero the Hero is good too. If the production, I hate to say this back then, because I did have it on vinyl with that god-awful cover. I remember my parents were like, what's that? Nothing. Don't worry about it. And so, and the production on it, I know, was so muddy. It was ridiculous. But now to me, I'm so used to it. But I still want to hear a remix or remaster or whatever to see what they could do with it. And as far as for, we won't even talk about the near concert experiences of getting to see Ozfest with Sabbath for those couple times. I was so rooting for an album all those years, brand new, right? You get that, what was it called? Reunion, where it looks like it's the Last Supper, and we get those two tracks, right? And I'm like, oh yes. And then what was it? A couple of years later? Yeah. A couple of years later, we get Scary. What was it called? Scary. They only did it in concert for like 1, 2, or Scary Dreams. I think it was called Scary Dreams. They never did a studio recording, to my knowledge. And so I'm just sitting here, and I'm like, I always wanted the original 4 to come back. When Bill was there at that press launch for for getting back together, and they were going to start setting up for 13, and I'm like, great, this is going to be a kick-ass album. Then the next thing you know, I'm like, what do you mean Bill's gone? What the hell nonsense is this? And of course, we didn't know right away. But then after I found it, I'm like, oh, Sharon, you stupid little. But so hopefully, like I said, this all comes back for that one gig and recorded and everything else. That's all there is to it. I'll tell you this much: I am probably the most ignorant in the Tony Martin era. I mean, the only stuff I remember is whatever the MTV Headbanger Ball videos were, like off of Headless Cross and Tear.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I guess
Headbangers Ball. I used to like that show, Headbangers Ball.
Oh, I loved it. So you guys, this is an exclusive, okay? As soon as I can find a damn copy of this, would anybody like to take a guess in what Sabbath album that I'm going to be doing an episode of Jukebox from Hell from?
What Sabbath album? Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath.
No, not Ozzy era.
Oh, okay.
Dehumanizer?
Heaven and Hell?
Dehumanizer.
Forbidden. Why do you why is it when I understand when bands want to push the envelope and they try to put what's his name from Body Count is on that album, and I'm going, and I'm going, oh, no. And the only cool thing about that album, to my knowledge anyway, is that you get that little secret co-write from Eddie Van Halen. It's for one track. That's about the only coolest thing out of that whole album, in my opinion anyway. I mean, you're talking 95. The cover even looks god awful. It's like a high school project could have slapped it together, and I'm going. And I almost missed the thing when it came out. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, I'm not getting this. Yeah, so you can make this ball. That's about all I have for this one.
Okay, so I want to say hi real quick to Henry and Piccolina the cat. Thank you both for being here. And you know what? I got a lot of people here. It's not always easy to get these thank yous in time, in a timely manner, I should say. So anyway,
Royce, since we have several generations on the panel of Sabbath fans, which is wonderful,
absolutely,
I'd be interested in knowing what each panelist, what is their favorite Black Sabbath album, irregardless of any era, just your very favorite Black Sabbath album.
Yeah. Put the name of your favorite album up there in the chat, and we'll show them all. Yeah. I think that's a great idea, Michael.
Well, I'd like to know the fellow panelists. Yeah.
Why don't we go? Yeah, around the horn. Well, I'll come back to Paranoid. Okay. I love this album.
Yeah.
All right. Who's going next?
First album I ever bought from them.
Is it really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Paranoid.
Myself, I'd have to go with probably a tie between the first two albums, Paranoid and Black Sabbath. I think I listened to them. Okay. Although overall, my favorite is probably still We Sold Our Souls from Rock and Roll, because that's what the first album that got me into it, even though it's a compilation.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Anybody else?
Go ahead. Let's get through.
I just listened to that earlier.
Yeah.
Sabbath 4.
I think the one as I'm getting old, my memory is kind of failing me for some. But the first album, the one with the Sweet Leaf and all that music.
Masters of Reality.
Yeah, that's their third album.
My favorite. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All good ones.
Yeah, for years that was mine too. For me, it's like it's almost like their Abbey Road, and that's Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. You've got everything. You got the sparkle. You've got a bit of barbed wire. You've got them just at their highest level, and they're all into doing it still. Ozzy still wanted to do it. and it's the best damn album cover they ever did, as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, David, we're heading your way, but I have to say, I've left your comment up for a while. I love the way you put this. Dio was great, but not a great fit for Sabbath. Saying Dio is Sabbath is like saying Coverdale Page is as good as Led Zeppelin. Coverdale is great, but I love that. Anyway, so what is your Sabbath album?
Oh, I just showed it. Number 4.
Number 4.
Okay, number 4.
I heard his voice.
Yeah.
And boy, you know what? When you get to Reality 4 and Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, that's a tough mix to choose from, too.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Speak of the Devil. That's the next album I'm going to show is Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. If I can get it out of the ring light glare, since I left the.
What an album cover! What an album cover!
Yeah, no, that's a great one. That's a great one. Yeah,
with little bits from Rick Wakeman, too.
Yeah.
Let me sneak.
Good point, Paul.
Let me sneak this one up as well here. Sabotage.
That's a pretty underrated album of theirs. I think it's pretty good.
It's a great one.
I think it's a good one too.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about before. Is there was a time when it got pretty decent reviews, and most people were happy. Nobody knew Sabbath was having problems at that time. The main problem they had was a lack of interest by Ozzy, who was contemplating a solo career. But nobody questioned it, and I thought Technical Ecstasy was even a little better, you know. But there was a slight dip in those albums, but they weren't the horrible albums that the new critics are trying to paint them to be. Like, oh, you can tell by listening that they were on their way out. Yeah. Well, how many pages in Wikipedia did you read before you even did your review, young man? You know,
right.
Because some of us don't remember it that way, and some of us remember the reviews we read from Rolling Stone, despite the fact that Lester Bangs, who was probably the greatest rock critic of our generation, couldn't stand them, didn't like them very much. You know.
Yeah. You know, guys, this
Lester has been known to be wrong too.
You look at Henry's comment. This is what I absolutely love about our chat and all the people in it. You know, they're just the comments are just so good.
I forgot about Disturbing. Yeah,
really smart people out there. You know. And anyway, let's see. So, well, I'll tell you what. Here it is, folks. Here's the Mistake album. I'm not complaining. This is the Ronnie. This is the Mistake album. I ordered it, thinking it was Ozzy. Thinking it was Ozzy, and it's Ronnie James Dio. No, I'm not. You know, I'm not complaining. You know what I'm saying? You gotta take a look at everything. I guess. You know.
Yeah, it's a good album.
I've bought worse albums, trust me. But again, it was a mistake that I thought I was buying Ozzy. Okay.
Wow.
So that's heavy.
You know, sometimes my curiosity probably damns me, okay? But I don't know if you guys know about this bit. So after Technical Ecstasy, Ozzy gets fired, right? So in that sandwich. So what a strange choice to drag in Dave Walker from Savoy Brown and Fleetwood Mac to come in here to do this. So I'm told, this is where my curiosity is probably going to kill me. A half an album supposedly was recorded with Dave. And the closest thing on YouTube, guys, that you can see, because I've seen it, they end up on a British television show and they do Junior's Eyes. That version. And when Ozzy came back for Never Say Die, he's like, fuck this, I'm not doing Dave Walker's lyrics, I'm gonna do my own. So that's why it's still sitting in the vault, supposedly.
That's a great story, brother.
Yeah, I hadn't heard it.
And one thing about Sabbath, to go back to the Dio years, they were probably going to do another album and tour, except when Ozzy was doing one of his tours. They asked Sabbath to come on as a special guest, and Dio said, "Why in the hell would you guys ever cater to him? He's below you guys now." Right. And they said, "Well, we're going to do it." And Dio said, "Well, fuck that. I'm out. I'm not doing that." And that's when he left. Otherwise, they probably would have kept going. But he refused to just play under the bill, like under Ozzy Osbourne on the bill. He would not do that.
Right.
And you know what? I have a bootleg somewhere on CD about Rob Halford sitting in about what you're talking about. He does a hell of a job. I was like, wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's good stuff right there. We got Jeff Davidson. The new box set of the albums with Tony Martin is fantastic.
See, I gotta get that.
Yeah. How many albums is in that? Does anybody know?
I think it's 4 or 5. I could be
4
wrong.
or 5. Okay. Born Again is best when taken as a one-off album and not so much Deep Purple or Sabbath. Okay, well, thanks.
Well, and Chris brings up a great point here because it wasn't supposed to be a Black Sabbath album. It wasn't recorded as a Black Sabbath album. Nobody ever talked about it being a Black Sabbath album until they, had it mastered and it was ready to go. And the record company told them it's a Black Sabbath album. They had
it
no
was
choice.
originally a Tony Iommi solo album.
That's right. That's right.
And Angela, thank you. Everybody, please hit the thumbs up or like button. Let that algorithm know they need to be presenting my show to people searching for content. Thank you.
I do have something here that very few people have, if any. And that's this.
Few, if any. Wow.
This was only available at the concert itself.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. You're kidding me.
Cool.
And it's all live stuff.
What a collectible.
God.
That's
Australia.
That's a nice little piece.
Yeah, and you could only get it on the tour. That was the only where
available.
Available.
Right. Wow, that's amazing.
I think it was one of the early shows, before, like one of the warm-up shows, perhaps. And they recorded it, and then they made it available as the tour went out.
Wow,
nice,
amazing,
nice.
Amazing.
Yeah, I guess they don't sell those anymore, do they?
No, that's pretty much a collector's.
For sure. Oh, I would imagine. Yeah.
Well, I put it in my CD player once to listen to it once when I first got it, and then I put it in my computer. I ripped it to my computer, and I haven't touched it since.
Folks. We're getting some votes here. Look at the Music Sanctuary says Paranoid. Let's see. Henry says Sabotage. Okay. Frank James says Sabotage. Wow. Henry says Sabotage, Paranoid tie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at this. This is funny. James Watson.
Yeah, that's about my favorite Sabbath album too.
Okay.
No dissing Black Sabbath. Like I said earlier in the stream, they are one of my major bands in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love this comment. Paranoid was a Christmas present from my oldest brother. So my first album as well.
Oh, wow. Now that's a gift. Cool.
Dr. Rick's torn between the first album and Paranoid. Well, that's a good
that
place
first
to be.
album is
I think
so
a lot
good.
of us feel that way.
Yeah, both those albums are so good. As soon as I say that first album, then you got to talk about Paranoid. I mean, Planet Caravan, it pointed to the future for them, Yeah. And it was the first direction that they weren't going to be just all barbed wire, although there's plenty of barbed wire left on Paranoid.